I'm just going to talk about what exists already out there in terms of educational material. And then also we'll talk about our experience in the Transition2BIO project and what we've done so far and how we've picked up on some tips and tricks about actually implementing some of these activities, hands-on labs, and how it works out then practically speaking. Clement will follow up in the second half of the presentation. So yeah, here's the overview. I'm just going to talk about two major resources for bioeconomy education material. The Transition2BIO, T2B is Transition2BIO, the project we're all working on, the library, online library, and the toolkits. And I'll explain those in a bit more detail in the second part, where I go into maybe some of the better resources or tools for primary schools. And look into the first toolkit and then into the second toolkit, the third toolkit as well. And then Clement will follow up with the last section on what we've learned from implementing some of these activities. So just quickly an overview, the Transition2BIO website, I can post it in the link later or somebody else can, has a lot of resources already. So we have a library with over 1,000 resources, and you can search by a variety of different categories. It seems a bit overwhelming, but I mean, you can search, for instance, for bioeconomy education materials. You can try by language. We're still working on, I think, getting as many materials in different languages. This is quite a challenge for us, but there really are already a lot of resources out there. However, it can be kind of overwhelming because it's hard to know where to begin. So that's why we decided to kind of scope and valorize what's already out there and put them as best we could into different toolkits or knowledge packages is what they really are, that looks at the bioeconomy from different perspectives. So currently we have 3 toolkits. The first one is kind of an introduction to the bioeconomy, and it's really focused on the general public. The second one is more focused on the supply side and about kind of the bioeconomy and its connection to the economy and supply side elements. And the last one is about kind of toolkit 3, communicating about the bioeconomy, and it's directed towards communicators. So just to be clear, though, we're working on a second version of the toolkits, which we hope to release in the fall, and it might be a more interactive format that right now they're currently as PDFs, but we're looking to maybe make it easier for people to use, maybe enhance the targeting so people can better understand how to use the toolkits. But this is currently what they look like. And for a teacher, initially you would probably think, okay, I'll go to toolkit 3. This is about communication and support for the bioeconomy, which is correct. It's for teachers. There's a little section at the bottom that's specifically focused on teachers. But as I'll talk about later, the entirety of toolkit 1 is also a really great place because it focuses on just what is the bioeconomy and is very engaging and posts a lot of engaging and interactive tools that are very visual and could be used in a educational lesson. So I've gone through just to see what I could find that might be best for primary school level. And in the first toolkit, which generally focus on, what is the bioeconomy for, targeting the general public, it starts off with some really nice videos. So there's this video from the European Commission. The bioeconomy starts here, and they have it in all different, all captions in EU languages. So it's always a really nice, simple introduction if you want to show it in class, or you just want to look at it yourself to understand in simple words what the bioeconomy is. I also included this kind of an engaging overview from All Things Bio as a really good resource to use that kind of, distills what the bioeconomy is in an easy way, in an easy to understand way. And then another kind of inspiring or visually appealing introduction into the bioeconomy is the BioArt Gallery, which if you go online, it's an interactive web page that presents pictures of feedstocks. So for instance, a tomato or any other feedstocks that could be transformed into products. And it's very nice and interactive, and I think is also easy to engage with. In addition, in the first toolkit at the bottom, you'll also find many quizzes and games. And this is for a range of different ages, but there's 3 different games currently on there. And it might be a nice thing to use to test students, also to test yourself, questions about, what do we mean? What does the bio mean in bioeconomy? What they like, a list of different items, which one of these would be considered part of the bioeconomy. It's just a nice way to refresh whether you've actually learned the concepts or not. So these quizzes and also games, which are fun for young kids. In the third toolkit, it's again focused on communicating the bioeconomy. And so it's more looking at methodologies about how to teach. So there's a section just dedicated to teachers at the bottom. And I picked out a few of the best resources that I thought I would like to introduce. And so one of them is like a specific pamphlet or booklet, this first one here, that introduces the bioeconomy and bio-based materials specifically in schools. So it's, again, very focused on how do I approach this when I'm in the classroom. Then there's already pre-made bio-based economy educational cards that have been created. And they're like just little simple definitions that you could possibly also use in your teaching. Then there's this Bloom Bioeconomy suitcase, which focuses on bio-based products. It's a really nice visual kind of, because I think we'll talk about this later, but this is kind of the most appealing aspect when presenting the bioeconomy to kids, is that you could look at a feedstock like pineapple leaves and then hold up some shoes made out of pineapple leather, and the transformation from one feedstock to an object like shoes is quite magical for kids, and can be a really nice way to get their attention. And then the last book, the last resource, is the book that was an online version of the book that you can click on. It's interactive. There's also physical copies of the books that you can order in a variety of different languages. So this is really a great resource as well. And then also in the toolkit 3, there are links to Bloom's school boxes. And I've highlighted these because these are really specific, very valuable teaching resources, which for a range of different ages. And I picked out a few that can be used in primary schools. But it really is a very detailed learning scenario that takes you through step by step, and has presentations and activities and group work, and is much more clear build up for your lesson for introducing some of these concepts. So I chose 3 of the school boxes. The first one is the learning scenario, and it's called How Poop Will Change the World. And it's quite a cute scenario, and the target age is for 13 to 15, but there's an adaptation for primary school for 10 to 12. And the focus of this one lesson plan is on renewable energy, but it includes all these pre-made PowerPoint slides, handouts, activities, group work. And I've also put a link to a video on the implementation. So there's a lot there already to work with. In the second one, the school box is called Building a New Environmental Future. This one also is age 13 to 15, but it can be very easily adapted for younger students. And it focuses a bit more on like the traditional versus bio-based products. It has a nice activity where you have a group of normal products and then bio-based products, and the kids have to kind of choose which is which. And there's also group work scenarios, which I think are quite helpful for introducing this concept. The last one is called Don't Waste Your Waste, raising bioeconomy awareness. Again, it's for the age 12 to 16, but can be adapted for somewhat younger kids, I think, if necessary. There's 2 reports here. One is from a primary or implementation reports of people that have actually tried this out in the school. One is from a primary school in Serbia, I think, and it's for ages 10 to 11. And the second one is from our guest today, from a primary school implementation of kids aged 9 to 12 in Turkey. But our colleague will talk about that later in more detail. So that was kind of a more deep dive into the resources that are available online on the Transition2BIO website in the toolkits, specifically Toolkit 1 and Toolkit 3. It's a really good place to start, but we also wanted to share with you our experience as a project in implementing what's called these hands-on labs that we've done throughout Europe in different countries. And Clément, my colleague, is just gonna speak a little bit about our experience and what we've learned in trying to adapt these the lessons to very young children.